Hello again, this is Paul Waln with our next segment on the possibility and implications of rent control in Seattle. I imagine that most of you were as shocked as I was when we looked at the rights that landlords have already lost. I knew that we were losing rights as I saw them slip away, but it wasn't until I decided to do this series on the possibility of rent control that it occurred to me how many rights we've lost already. Today we'll be discussing the possible implications of rent control and what it could mean if rent control is imposed in the city of Seattle. I believe that the possibilities could be at the same level as a 2008 Banking Meltdown event for apartment investors. And the important part is that we need to prepare while we have the opportunity to do so. And that opportunity exists today. As most of you recall, in 2008, the ability to finance apartment buildings and real estate in general evaporated. In fact, there wasn't a single mortgage completed in the entire United States for a period of 2 weeks. The issue is that it took much longer for this to recover than any of us ever thought that it really would. The reality is that taking away the ability to finance the purchase or refinance apartment buildings destroyed the value of the buildings themselves. Now, as we will recall, I told everybody that these values would eventually recover, but it would likely take up to 10 years. In reality, it took about 7. But the bottom line is taking away the ability to finance an asset has a major impact on the value of that asset. So, if you and I could have avoided participating in the losses of those 7 plus or minus years in the value of our real estate assets, wouldn't it have been nice to avoid that and not participate in the downturn? I sure would have liked that, and I believe most of you would have as well. I believe that those of us that are focused on being long-term, and by long-term I mean multiple decades, investors in apartment buildings in Seattle will be fine as long as changes in value and rents in the short term, and by the short term I mean 5 to 10 years, don't impact us in any meaningful way. If rent control is imposed in the city of Seattle, I believe the most likely outcome will simply be that values will become static, in other words, not increase, or go down for a period of time. If you look at rent control in other cities, you'll see that the cities have recovered, the values have recovered. I mean, wouldn't you like to own an apartment building in Manhattan or another major city where rent control was imposed years ago? I know I would. The question is, do you want to go through the adjustment period, which in my opinion would be something in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 years, where values and rents will decrease significantly? We have available to us as investors strategies to completely avoid the short term, and by again short term I mean possibly a decade, losses in value and income. And I'll be talking in the next segment about what some of our clients have been doing to protect themselves against participation in those losses. Seattle has been a wonderful place to own apartment buildings for many years, and for some of us it still is. In fact, as I've said before, the Waln Team has active investors that are currently looking to buy apartment buildings, but again, their focus is short term. Their focus is to buy, remodel, increase the value, and sell in the short term before the implications of rent control become a reality. And yes, their business models include tenant relocation as part of their budgets. So again, what does all of this mean for those of us who own buildings in the city of Seattle? That's going to be different for all of us. So again, I'm not encouraging a course of action. What I'm encouraging is that we schedule a time to sit down and talk about what your options are and how to best protect yourself, your family, and your wealth in the current environment. Simply email Betsy and she can go ahead and set up a meeting at either our Kirkland location or our Bellevue location at a time that's convenient for you, and we can look at what your best options are. Thanks again, it's been great talking to you all, and I look forward to seeing you in the next segment.